Hey folks, I just want to pop on here for a little story time. So yeah, I've been a little MIA lately, and because I had to have surgery, and ugh, I just been in my feels. I just don't like hospital settings. I don't like going into the doctor. I don't even have a PCP. Like I do not like it. But anyway, I had a hysterectomy, a partial hysterectomy. So meaning they take the uterus, they take the fallopian tubes, and they leave you with your ovaries so that you don't go into menopause, and they leave you with your cervix. So, yep, and they've gotten so sophisticated with the procedure. I know a full hysterectomy is much more intense, just because once you take the ovaries and it's like they have to put you on like hormone replacement therapy like right after that, but because your body will, you won't be producing the female hormones, so I'm glad I didn't have to have that part done, but because I had a long history of fibroids, and it was just they were sucking me dry, y'all. Them fibroids, them little fucking aliens. I had like no blood in my body. My period was so heavy. I was going through like a max, like the large overnight always maxi pads. I know you know what I'm talking about. They're thick. They're thick, thick. Like, this is the thickness, thick and long. I would go through those, and and if I use a tampon too. I mean, honestly, I just stopped using tampons because they were just pointless. My body was just like, psh, just like flooded it out. But I could go through a a super plus tampon, like the biggest one you could get, which I feel like they were getting smaller, but the biggest one you could get, and a overnight pad in about 30 minutes. Yep, every 30 minutes I'd have to change the pad. And this was going on for about 2 years. I have a long history of fibroids. I started in 2008, is when I first was diagnosed with it, because I had probably had them my whole cycle time I started having a period. But I had typically always had a heavy cycle, but it was 5 days, and it would just go. It was no cramps. It was just like. So I didn't really complain about it. But then when I hit my like later 20s, I think like I had these what they call pedunculated fibroids. So they were outside of the uterus. So that means I didn't really have it didn't show up on a lot of things because like they weren't picking it up because it was outside of the uterus on a stalk, like they hang off. But it twisted and it caused me a lot of stomach pain, and that's what triggered me to go to the doctor, and that's how they found out I had them. They removed them. I had them removed. I had a laparoscopic myomectomy, and they were peach size. That's what my office they used to call me Peach because I had these. Anyway, I had them removed 5 pounds of fibroid tissue. They came back in 2011. And let me tell you, in 2008, my surgeon told me, he was like, yeah, we think it's because of the hormones that they put in meat and dairy and da 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 da. I was like, well, why does that? Then why would only black women be getting these? Because it's predominantly a condition that black women get. So you saying black women only women eating red meat, or is it the quality of the red meat that we're eating in our neighborhoods? Like, what is it? I don't know. I think it's bigger than that. I think it's deeper than that. I think it has to do with generational trauma trapped in our wombs from slavery. And probably other things, but I'm not going to get into that. My point is, they came back in 2011. This is me while I had gone vegan, vegetarian, plant-based. I was doing all the things. They still came back. So they removed them again. This time when they came back, the fibroids were in the uterus. They came back. Took out as much as they could, because they can never take out all of it, because you leave too much scar tissue, then you won't be able to have kids. So then they said, okay, well, you can have children, but you have to have C-sections because your uterus is too weak, because we done been in here cutting and stuff, slicing and dicing, and so you can have kids, but you're going to have to have a C-section or your uterus might rupture. So I had two beautiful daughters right after 2012, 2015. And the fibroids were still there, but they were small, and I was able to kind of like manage them using herbs. I was using like a lot of anti-inflammatory herbs. I was just eating turmeric like it was nothing. Lots of ginger, Shashandra berry. Like I was doing herbs that kind of like manage, and Vitex chast, tree berry, like herbs that keep your hormones balanced. That was working until I hit my mid 40s. Then I was dealing with perimenopausal symptoms, which is like the opposite. Is when you're because then I'm thinking, okay, my estrogen levels, if I'm doing the math right, if estrogen dominance is one of the issues with fibroids, if I'm going into perimenopause, my estrogen should be dropping, so the fibroid should be shrinking. That it didn't seem to be what was going on because yes, my estrogen was dropping, and I could tell because I was having perimenopausal symptoms like hair loss. I was dealing with just pain in my bones and my muscles for no reason. My period got heavier, which they said is also a sign of perimenopause. Right before you get into menopause, they will say you will have like, heavier cycles. So I was thinking, wait, so should I increase my estrogen or decrease it? I started to get confused. Plus, they're telling you, at this age, you have bone density issues and osteoporosis and muscle tone. You start losing muscle tone, so you need to increase your protein. And the best way to get your protein is through meats and stuff, which I know that's bullshit. I know you can get protein through things outside of animal sources. But nonetheless, I was like, you know what? I'm not taking any chances. I'm going to, get some like grass-fed beef and, whatever. And just to keep my protein intake up, exercise, strength training, all the things. Well, these fibroids are slowly growing, and I could feel them. I could feel them in the right side of my stomach. I could feel it. They were starting to like protrude and making it look like I had my stomach was already kind of like, I kind of already had like a fupa because of the fact that I had been cut in the same place 4 times at this point, right? There's 2 myomectomies and 2 C-sections. I've been cut in the same place 4 times. And so my stomach was already weak from that, and my stomach muscle. So I already had like kind of like a little overhang, and the fibroids were making it more pronounced. So I'm thinking I'm still trying to maintain this with his herbs, trying to maintain. Well, my period started getting heavier and heavier around 2022. And I thought it was, honestly, I thought it was from the vaccine, because that's around the time, like around 2020, I had gotten the vaccine, and I noticed that my period had gotten longer after I got the vaccine. It went from like a 25-day kind of cycle to basically my period used to be like 5 days, and it started to go to 7 days, and then it started to even get longer than that. And I was like, what is going on? So anyway, all these things are happening. It's like the perfect storm, right? The vaccine, the goddamn menopause, and then the fibroids showing their ass again. So fast forward to this past December, I had just finished the cycle, my menstrual cycle. Then the cycle, I noticed, I'm like celebrating at Christmas, my stomach just gets super bloated and painful and tender. And I also need to add, I had been having this headache for like 2 weeks, and I don't really get headaches. So I was like, something's wrong. It was right here, and it was going on for 2 whole weeks. I could not get rid of this headache. It was chronic. And then I was like thinking it was something. I wasn't even correlating that with the fibroids. I was thinking it was like a tooth. Like I was like, maybe I need to go to the dentist. Maybe I have a cavity or something. I didn't know what was going on. So I get through Christmas, and then the next day the bleeding is just like, it gets extreme. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is an off cycle bleeding. I was like, I can't bleed this heavily like every other week. I'm not going to make it. Go to the ER. The ER gives me a ultrasound and an MRI. They were like, yeah, you got 3 very pronounced grapefruit size fibroids. You have a very enlarged uterus. You've got to make a decision because your blood is too low and you ain't gonna make it if you keep bleeding like this. So they gave me progesterone to stop the bleeding so that I could even make it to the gynecologist. Went to the gynecologist. They like, hey, you gotta just go ahead and get this hysterectomy. God damn it! I mean, I done already been cut all these times trying to deal with this thing, been taking all of nature's goodness trying to deal with these things, and I still have to have a hysterectomy? You're talking about sad. I was sad. I had felt like I had failed. I felt like I failed a test or something. Like I could not figure this one out. And I do this. Like I help people. I've helped other people deal with fibroids. Why can't I deal with my own? Y'all, I cried so much because I had planned on leaving this earth with all my organs. And I'm also just pissed off that I just dealt with this for so long. And it's like I still ended up having to have a hysterectomy. Now, let me just say this. I also cried for the women who had to have hysterectomies and they did not get a chance to have children yet. That is what made me cry the most. To have to make this kind of decision and you haven't even yet to have babies, and if that's what you choose to do, if you wanted to have babies but you weren't even you didn't even have the option to do that, and having to make these life choices. I just feel like it's a very barbaric procedure. Even though they're so sophisticated in it. And honestly, it's probably as easy as getting a tooth pulled. It's just, how can we have gotten so sophisticated in removing whole organs, but we can't figure out how to deal with a damn benign tumor? Is it because it only impacts black women mainly and that's why they ain't really focused on it? But it really causes your quality of life to be shitty. You can't go places because you're constantly bleeding and you don't want to bleed out on somebody's chair or in your clothes and embarrass yourself. You don't feel, there's a 1 week out of every month, sometimes longer, where you just feel like shit. And the only thing they can tell you is, well, get on birth control pills to stop the bleeding. But that doesn't stop the hormones from growing. That does not stop the fibroids from growing. They have uterine embolization where they basically catheterize, shooting plastic, which that doesn't sound fucking appealing, shooting plastic into the blood vessels that are feeding the fibroids. Potentially you could still have children if you do that, but that could potentially also cause infertility, and it can also, the fibroids can find another source and start all over again. And that procedure can easily cause you to have blood clots. Anytime they're catheterizing a blood vessel, what do you think could happen? It was just a very frustrating. It's just been very frustrating, y'all. I'm grateful I have my children. I'm grateful for the surgeons that did my procedure. I'm grateful for everybody that supported me during this time, because I had some amazing coworkers and friends and family that helped me. You know, I had people, y'all. I have people who helped me. But I just was sad. I was sad on a spiritual level too, because, you know, your uterus is where that's your womb. That's your sacral chakra. That's where you keep your creativity. That's where you birth things, not just children, but you birth ideas. You birth businesses there. You birth concepts and solutions. And most of our lives surround that. You know, that's critical to us and how we thrive in this world. And then to have the actual uterus removed, it scared me. It made me think that, like, will I not be able to create anymore? Will I be like just stagnant? And I know deep down that the spiritual body of the uterus will still be there. Like that spiritual uterus will still be there, but it just fucking sucks because let's be real. If these same issues were happening to men with penises, they would have been figured out. If fibroids could enter the penis, they would have been figured out how to deal with it. Because how is it that men can have vasectomies and then have that shit reversed, but you can't reverse a hysterectomy? We got to do better. We have to do better. Anyway, that's where I've been. And I am excited about what it's going to be like because honestly, I'm hoping my iron levels go back to normal, which I don't know that they've ever been at a normal level. So now I'm going to go crazy on the iron enriched herbs. But I may still have to do an iron infusion. I know I'm going to do it. It's just too low. And this is it. And I know because I know this is a long video, but if you are into the herb world and you're into naturopathic medicine, and you come across these issues where you can't figure them out from a naturopathic standpoint, do not risk your health. I am a big proponent of integrative health. So as much as I'm pissed off about the fact that I felt like the allopathic or the conventional healthcare system has failed us in a lot of ways, it still has a better chance of keeping you alive in emergency situations. It is great for emergency healthcare, and that's how I've used it. That's what this was. This was an emergency hysterectomy because I would have died if I had kept losing any more blood, for sure, or put myself in a really worse position. If I had been stubborn in my own ego and said, no, I'm going to try this remedy that I've read about or whatever, this herbal remedy, I might not be here. And you do have to know when to bring in other modalities, other ways of doing things, even if it's not naturopathic. You know, if you come in my house, you will see Tylenol. Even though I have willow bark, which also is Tylenol, I also have regular Tylenol because I am not above it. If I can't figure it out, I will go into that medicine cabinet. I will go to the doctor. I am not opposed to that. And I think that's something that we need to really push is integrative health. It's no one way. Not in this world. We move too fast. Too much expectations. You know, we don't have a shaman and a witch doctor down the street, you know, and we don't have the time to go find them and sit with them and harvest all the herbs that they want. That's just not the world that we're in right now. It's too fast paced. And so it's just like, what's that balance for you? And I think that's what this lesson is for me. What's the balance? And for me, I will still continue to push herbs as a preventative medicine. And treatment for chronic issues, but it's when you know when, and your body knows when, and your heart knows when you need help from other sources, and don't feel bad for needing help from other sources. Okay, everything will be all right. All right, y'all. Take care.